Stronger brain activation for own baby, but similar activation toward babies of own and different ethnicities in parents living in a multicultural environment. Conclusion and recommendations. A paper by Professor Raghunath and co-authors. The study had one major issue it wanted to investigate. Does living in a well-integrated multicultural context lend to greater expertise to parents towards babies from various ethnicity? So they conducted the study in Singapore to find out. Assuming that the baby schema effect is robust in a multi-ethnic context, the authors operationalized the problem by proposing 4 hypotheses. Number 1. There is no difference in neural activation of parents perceiving non-own infant faces from within or outside the parent's ethnicity. Number 2. Viewing of one's own infant versus non-own in-group and out-group infants would be reflected in greater involvement of brain areas underlying empathic processing. And number 3, greater involvement of reward and motivation areas. And number 4, greater involvement of cerebral regions previously reported in response to own infant phases in connection with motor intentions and control. Using fMRI techniques on their participants while viewing pictures of babies, what did they find out? There indeed was no difference in brain patterns of parents while viewing infant faces regardless of ethnicity. How did they determine this? Let's sift through the images by replacing the structures with the functions. Here you can appreciate that areas of activation between different ethnicities are the same for visual perception, empathy, rewards, and motor planning. The 3 other hypotheses regarding perception of parents of their own infant versus other infants regardless of ethnicity showed higher activation in terms of brain areas that correspond to empathy, rewards and motivations, and responsive motor planning. Here's a study aid to help you map out the critical areas assessed in the study. To summarize, there was no significant difference between the parents perceiving non-own infant faces regardless of their ethnicity. Additionally, greater activation of key brain areas for empathy, rewards and motivation, and responsive motor control were demonstrated on parents while viewing their own child against other infants regardless of race. The study concludes that in a well-integrated and multicultural society, babies' faces stimulate brain activations that promote adaptive caregiving regardless of ethnicity. While the study presents a unique and seminal approach to the role of environment on behavior towards race, the following limitations and recommendations have been mentioned in the article. Number 1. The study did not perform any localizer task that can isolate regions related to a specific cognitive function. Number 2. Only Chinese participants were enrolled in the study. They were the majority ethnic group. Number 3. Existing literature, samples from one ethnicity only per study. The article recommends to investigate if the adult faces interfered with the perception of baby pictures. To compare participants who have no experience with infants versus those who have. To study populations who belong to a minority group. To compare populations which come from a more homogeneous environment, not a multi-ethnic one. To sample a variety of ethnic groups. Other recommendations we propose include to increase the sample size of future studies, to develop an exclusion or inclusion criteria for a well-integrated multi-ethnic environment, and to translate the research to a more naturalistic setting, real babies instead of images. What about you? What do you think of the study? How does this article affect your professional practice? We'd like to hear from you. Please scan the QR code and share your thoughts. Thank you, I'm Phil, and have a good day.